Learning disability. A learning disability is a neurological condition that interferes with an individual's ability to store, process, or produce information. Contrary to popular belief, disorders such as ADHD, autism, or mental illness do not fall under the category of a learning disability. Dyslexia and dysgraphia are the most common learning disabilities, affecting as many as 15 to 20% of Americans. Individuals with learning disabilities are affected by them their entire life, not just childhood. This is why recognition and acceptance is important at all levels of society, from schools to sports to jobs. Even though learning disabilities are more accepted now in comparison to a century or even a decade ago, there is still stigma behind learning disabilities. People with learning disabilities are forced to face discrimination in their daily lives, whether it be from peers, from teachers, from bosses, coaches, or other figures of authority. Learning disabilities are rarely discussed or talked about, contributing to the stigma and misconceptions surrounding them. School is one of the aspects of life where a learning disability can hinder those affected if not dealt with properly. For students with learning disabilities, accommodations such as IEPs or 504 plans are a way to success. In these plans, students establish their needs, for instance, more time on tests and quizzes, or a distraction-free testing environment. IEPs in schools can be an effective way of dealing with and helping overcome learning disabilities. However, the process of testing for learning disabilities and attaining the proper accommodations can be time-consuming and costly. This means that the needed care and accommodations are not as accessible to low-income families. People with learning disabilities do not only face challenges in school, but in the workplace as well. Because there are many misconceptions about learning disabilities, many of those affected do not feel comfortable letting others know about their learning disability, especially coworkers or bosses. For adults with learning disabilities, a common phenomenon is underemployment, where they are often overqualified for their job or position, but do not move up in the fear that their learning disability would be revealed. People with learning disabilities often face bullying and discrimination because of it. In a survey of parents of elementary school students with learning disabilities, 45% of them say that their child has been bullied, and 66% think that their child is bullied more than kids without learning disabilities. Though there are many challenges and setbacks, people with learning disabilities can be just as successful as anybody else. Many great minds have had learning disabilities, such as Pablo Picasso, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, and more. Someone else who has succeeded in the midst of the challenges of having a learning disability is Ella. Ella has learned to deal with these obstacles in school, work, and everyday life. What is your learning disability and how does it affect your daily life?
Okay, so I have dyslexia. It affects my daily life, mainly in how fast I can process things. I read things slower, which means that I have to get accommodations from teachers on tests. I have problems with math, so I need a calculator for all my math tests. Back when I was younger, it probably affected my daily life a lot more, especially when I was learning how to read, just because I was so far behind all the other kids.
What would you change if you could about accommodations and IEPs?
Teachers need to learn how to accommodate to that and recognize it so that they can recommend kids for IEPs and accommodations. And you have to have a certain amount of privilege to be able to not so much get accommodations in school, but to get accommodations for things that also really matter, your college entrance exams or AP tests. That costs money and that takes time from your parents, and so some people can't afford to do that.
Would you say that you've been treated differently by coaches, teachers, authority figures in the past?
Well, it's interesting because oftentimes I don't tell my teachers that I have a learning disability until I have to. But then as soon as I tell them that, they're either much nicer to me or they talk down to me.
Would you say that you have faced stigmas, and how do you get over the stigma behind learning disabilities?
Yeah, well, so a lot of it just like within yourself. It does come from like just always feeling like slightly lesser than other people because of your learning disability. It mainly comes from like teachers who don't know what like a learning disability means. They associate it with like a mental disability, but it doesn't make you like less intelligent. It just makes you have to learn in a different way.
Awareness and acceptance is one of the main solutions to the discrimination of people with learning disabilities. Knowing what a learning disability is and how to approach the subject of learning disabilities is the first step in eliminating the stigmas in today's world surrounding them. Institutionally, more accessibility to diagnosing and working through learning disabilities needs to be put in place in order to continue the road to better acceptance of learning disabilities in the U.S. and around the world.